What's going on, guys? This is Laura Kelley from Iconici MMA. Unless you have never seen anything in MMA before, you probably know who's sitting next to me. Matt Hughes, 9-time UFC welterweight champion. Former champion. And UFC Hall of Famer. So, how are you doing, and what are we doing here today?
I'm doing good. Yeah. Just flew into Denver here, and we're going to do a seminar today, rest of the day today and tomorrow till the afternoon sometime. So, yeah, flew in for a seminar.
Great, and we're at Grudge Training Center in Arvada. So talk to me a little bit first about, I know you've done these seminars around the country. What do you teach, and what's the most important things people are going to be learning?
Well, I teach everything from technique to your mindset and positioning in the cage, a lot of the thought process. You know, I'm a big believer in fighting is 50% mental and 50% physical. And if you can make somebody crumble mentally, they'll fall physically right after that. So there's a whole, I believe, you know, there's a whole, so we need to stop that timer. We just had to go in with a certain mindset to break that opponent down.
So, and talk to me, I did have some people email in some Facebook questions that I thought were really important, and one of them came from Jen Conaway in Florida. She used to go to Grudge here, and she's bummed she can't come to your seminar, but she was wondering how you feel about fighters fighting closer to their real weight class, and what your opinion is on that.
I think a fighter should fight wherever he or she feels more comfortable. I mean, if they, Dustin, I just was watching the fights before I stepped here, and Dustin went back up to 155 pounds, and Poirier, and he feels great. So I think people should be where they feel comfortable and most confident. You know, I think confidence is a good thing in there. When I step in the octagon, I want to make sure I did all my cardio. I'm kind of a big believer, and I don't need to do cardio, but when I do cardio, it gives me more confidence, so it helps me on the mental side as well. So I think when people step in that octagon and they feel very confident in the weight they're at, that's what's most important.
And I know, and I heard from a bunch of people on social media, but I hear it and hear a lot, is what is your advice for someone wanting to be a pro fighter eventually but has to keep a full-time job? What kind of training regimen would you recommend for that?
Well, in that scenario, and of course when I was starting out and fighting, I did the same thing. I trained whenever I could. You can't just find time, you know, to train. You got to make time to train. Something's got to give, whether that be overtime at work or time with the family or something. But you've got to make time to train, and got to get it in. So, and I think the two most important things you can do is, number one, find a good gym. You know, your good training partners, your good striking coaches, your good coaches everywhere actually, is great. You know, you got to have that. Number two is get a good manager, and it could be all in the same place. Could be under the same building where it's the trainer is the manager, or it could be two totally different facilities or places. So you get a good manager and get a good gym, and you'll be on the right road.
And speaking of that, it all kind of goes together. David Spencer on Facebook was wondering what kind of nutrition regimen would you recommend for fighters doing wrestling or MMA or both?
You know, when we get done with a workout, we're usually covered in sweat. And, you know, when you take a shower and you're going to go out to eat, you know, half an hour, 45 minutes afterwards, when you look at your plate, you want 3/4 of that plate to be good carbs, and then protein, and then, you know, a small amount of fats. But your body's really wanting carbs right after that workout. Then later on that night, you want to make sure you get plenty of protein. 4 hours later, you want to get some protein in your body, and that's when your body is really craving more of the protein. So when you sleep at night, you need to make sure you're juiced up on your protein before you fall asleep. That way your body can go ahead and mend itself.
And switching gears a little bit, what are your most memorable MMA fights to date? What would you say would be the ultimate one?
When I beat BJ was probably a big one for me. Of course, BJ beat me. I came back, I beat BJ. And it was just big that I beat a guy who first took my belt away from me. And it was just a big fight for me. Of course, BJ come back and beat me again after that, so he won the trilogy. But that fight against BJ was big. Beating Hoist was a big fight for me. And then, of course, you know, you got to say Carlos Newton, the first time I won the title, was a big fight as well.
And as MMA's transitioned a little bit, I know, and we can't get away from it in the news, is all the drug testing, all the new rules, all the, you know, controversies. Do you have a feeling on that? I mean, I know they've put a July 1st deadline on some of it, but we're not really clear on what's going to happen. When you were in it, how they're handling it?
You know, I don't know that I was tested. You know, every time I fought for the belt, I was tested, and boy, I guess guys got caught, but you just didn't hear much about it. But you know, UFC is just a whole different game now. Now, I'm a big anti-drug guy. You know, I think everybody should step in and as natural as can be. I do take protein, you know, after I get done lifting or this and that. But other than that, that's all I think you really need. I'm not big into pre-workout formulas, post-workout formulas, you know, all that. You know, I do take a chewable vitamin a day or something, a chewable vitamin C. But I'm just not a big pill popper or medicine popper, or I don't really want anything that has to do with that's not natural. So I stand behind whatever the UFC comes up with. And they want a clean playing field. You know, when you look at it, and fighter A gets beat by fighter B, who gets tested for positive and gets beat bad, maybe seriously, you would think fighter A could possibly sue that fighter B for making it an uneven playing field.
That's true. So just keep it clean, and you know, just you got to have the protein, but
yeah. And just, you know, keep it within the rules for sure.
Well, and talk to me a little bit about what do you do? Are you involved in any charity work? I know Matt Virgin on Facebook was asking about that, or you know, how do you think gyms should be involved in their communities?
Well, I think gyms should definitely give back and get into, you know, charity work. My big charity is Rancho 3M Orphanage down right on the other side of El Paso in Mexico, and you know, so I'm involved in a few other charities as well, but that's my big one. That's where I send all my charity money to.
It sounds like a great charity. So you know.
The people are in need down there.
And finally, I do have one question. I had like 3 people ask it to me on Facebook. Was, do you think there's anyone that's ever going to be able to beat Ronda Rousey, in your opinion? Because it doesn't look like it right now. So
I agree. You know, she's ran through everybody, but there'll be somewhere. You know, everybody gets older. You know, GSP, you know, he didn't get his belt taken from him at the end, but Johnny gave him a heck of a fight and really beat him up, you know. So, I mean, I think it's not changing topics on you, but I think GSP will I don't think he'll come back. You know, why would you want to come back and possibly get a beating like that again when he's doing other things? So I don't think he's going to come back, but we just get old. So Ronda's going to grow up. She's going to get a little older. She's going to get a little slower, and she will eventually get beat unless she gets out and does something else. But, yeah, my big saying was years ago, if you haven't been beat, you're not fighting the right people. But, you know, she could be the exception because she's fought everybody the UFC has gave her and done well.
Great. Well, before we wrap up, is there anything you want to add, or do you have any plans while you're here in Colorado?
I'm going to enjoy the good weather. Coming from Illinois, and it was when I looked at my truck this morning, it was 33 degrees. So it's nice here, and I'm going to relax a little bit and do some demonstrations and go back home to my family tomorrow.
You definitely get up to Red Rocks if you can. It's not very far from here. That's a good little place to go.
Will do.
All right. Thank you so much, Matt Hughes. And if you need to, I guess, get a hold of you about seminars, should they email you?
Twitter's the best way. Matt Hughes 9X.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Laura Kelley for Iconici MMA.